Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat Five segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show. What is up? Welcome back to Drummers on Drumming, a podcast powered by Big Fat Snare Drum. We're back with another installment of the Drum Panel. My name is Ben Hilzinger, and I've got my trusty co-host, Eric Urrea, as well as Cain Daniel, a new to the podcast guest. I recently saw Cain play with Jesus Molina on Instagram, and I was just blown away. He's going to be doing a Big Fat Five very soon, but he was such an awesome person to talk to. He really matched me and Eric's energy amazingly, so I'm happy I had him come on. But today we talk about creative ruts and how to get out of them, why live performance is its own form of mindfulness, a bunch of gear horror stories, and if our younger selves could see us right now, what would they think? Yeah, so please enjoy this conversation with me, Eric Urrea, and Cain Daniel. All right, cheers. Cain Daniel, Eric Urrea, back on the show. Well, it's Cain's first time, but Eric's back on the show. And I really want to get better at only doing this show when Eric is here, because it's so much more fun. I feel like I'm more myself when you're here, Eric. So
I'm honored. You need the what about you, Eric's is a
yes,
staple.
Exactly. That needs to be the t-shirt. By the way, Eric, I wanted to let you know. So you made a post. You were talking about red light syndrome, and you uploaded a solo of you taking chances and stuff. And and I wanted to wait to tell you till we got on the air. But one of my closest drummer friends, I used to live with him back in the day. He's a great drummer. He now does audio mixing for Sony. He's not really drumming that much anymore, but he's a super talented guy. And he sent me a video yesterday of a drummer on TikTok, and it was you. And he sends me videos of people that he just loves. Like, it'll just be these crazy drummers and like, oh my God, and we just like talk about it for a second. He sent me your video of you doing that, and I was like, holy shit, that's my co-host. And he was talking about how nervous he was uploading it, whatever. I just want you to know that impacted him enough to send me, and he had no idea that we knew each other.
That's nuts.
That was an incredible video, by the way. If people should go check out Eric's latest video.
Well, thank you. I'm honored. It's so weird that sometimes you put stuff out there and I don't know, I kind of set it and forget it. And then I realize, oh yeah, people actually like watch that stuff.
Yeah. When the podcast was first starting out and I wasn't getting a lot of numbers or listens, if you actually think about the number of people that were listening and put them in a room, and if they were all sitting there watching you talk, it's like, oh, they're actually people. That's a lot of people.
Do you get people like coming up to you asking you about stuff from the podcast, and you're like, whoa, what is...
If I go to drummer hangs, a lot of my friends will come up and be like, oh my God, this episode, But at NAMM, there was, I think it was the guy at the DW booth. He was doing the DWE demonstration, and he was a fan of the podcast. And it was the first time someone I genuinely had no idea who they were, and it was awesome. I like my fans, apparently, so that's good.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting because you're essentially just having a conversation, and then someone's referencing your conversation as if you like logged it. You're just like talking with your friends, and then you're like, wait, what did I say 3 months ago about this one topic? Like that has to be interesting. I've never experienced that.
So, Cain, I've been asking a lot of newbies that come on this show, if you could have any piece of gear in history, what would it be?
Man, I think it's between two things. It definitely would be a ride cymbal.
Okay.
So these are really niche. It's either this ride cymbal that Steve Gadd used on the Zildjian Day live thing that has like a chunk cut out of it. I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's like,
I
believe it's just him and a vocalist. And this ride cymbal, it probably sounds like crap unless it's him playing it. But the way he plays it, and it just sounds incredible. Obviously, Steve Gadd does and can play anything.
Yeah.
So I think like a piece of gear that he thinks he can do anything with, I feel like is good enough for me.
Yeah.
And then
great answer.
The other ride cymbal I would probably choose is the Tony Williams ride on Nefertiti.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the same ride. I'm not so much of a gear nerd to know if it's like the same ride for like the 4 and More stuff. Like, but I feel like the Tony Williams Miles years, I feel like when I think of a jazz ride cymbal, that's just where my brain goes.
Yeah.
Istanbul remade it and they did an incredible job. That feel like is the closest thing that I would get to getting that, and I hopefully one day will get one.
I love that. I don't think anyone said a ride cymbal. Has yours changed, Eric?
I do remember vaguely after we did it the first time, I looked back and I was like, I kind of want the Keith Moon Pictures of Lily drum kit. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but it's just like this custom kit that he made with like pinups, or it's so dorky, but it's like a legendary drum kit. I don't know.
Did you guys see Bryson Nelson recently up? Well, he's been doing this a lot where he says, hey, what's up? I'm in my garage and here's some kits I'm going to bring to the shop. And then he'll just kind of walk through and it's very casual and, oh, I haven't seen this one. Yeah, whatever. I love Bryson. And one of them was a Ludwig drum set, a silver sparkle Ludwig drum set. And it was from the movie That Thing You Do. And it came with like this huge life-size cardboard cutout, like a promotion thing for the movie, certificate of authenticity and all that stuff. And he already had sold it by the time he saw my comment. But man, that would have been so fun. I guess it was a modern drum set, but they used the time-specific Keystone badge from when that would have been recorded, and it was really cool. But just, I would have never played it, but just to have a drum set, I mean, I'm sure one of many that were used on the set, you know.
Sure. And I think awesome. The reason why I went for a cymbal, because I feel like, one, cymbals are so particular, like they're very one of one, right?
Mm-hmm. Back in the day, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, right, especially the older stuff. Snare drums, I mean, especially the old ones, they are incredible, but they're very much, you do this thing with it, it does this thing really amazing. And same with kits, like it's very hard, at least in my life, I've been very hard pressed to find like, here's the kit that I could do anything I want with. Mm-hmm. But cymbals, I would love to have one that's just like, man, no matter what I'm playing, I guess because I like to play a lot of different things, just to have like something I could just go to and get the exact.
If you got that cymbal, you would play it? It's not a wrong answer.
Man, that's tough.
But I'm saying like, oh shit, I don't know if I even touch it.
I would probably play it, but like it wouldn't leave the house.
Yes.
Fair.
Like I have some old cymbals that my dad gave me. So my dad's also a drummer, and he had some stuff that he got that he like handed down to me. But it's like I'm very nervous to use them. But if I like when I do use them, it's like only in my studio. Like I don't want to ever risk somebody taking them or, you know, I crack it because I'm playing too hard live or whatever.
Exactly.
It's like,
you're like, I'm only playing like Freddie Freeloader on this guy. I'm not moving anything at all.
Well, I'm
almost chopsticks level. Yeah.
Well, I love the idea of the Steve Gadd cymbal because it's cool to have like a quote unquote crappy cymbal that a legend has made sound amazing, and then to try and replicate the sound on that cymbal would be like such a fun idea, fun experiment to just like try and practice
it probably teaches
drawing.
You a lot about touch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With cymbals too, it's easier to get, I'm not saying easy, but it's easier to get the exact sound from that record as opposed to, say, you wanted to get a snare drum that Gadd used on Asia. Let's just say that thing became available. And it's like to get that tuned and muffled in the right space to get the sound that you were obsessed about. At that point, it's like you just got to have that snare because you want to know you have it instead of like thinking you can get. It'd be so much harder to get the Gadd sound from just a shell with new heads and, you know.
Right, and you also contending with the room.
Exactly.
What mic they used. I mean, where it was in the room. Like records are so tough. Like, and I'm not qualified enough to even know what to like go for. But like, I agree with you. That'd be really hard. That'd be really hard to replicate.
So I'm a Rogers artist, and I have a new power tone. I have an old kind of more jazz indie rock kit, and I wanted one of those XP8s, like the 8-ply early 80s big ugly R ones. They were the first ones to get the big ugly R, and then when Rogers was sold, the big R became a low quality thing in the late 80s. But the early 80s stuff was, you know, really nice, and so I just bought a New England maple natural finish XP8 from 81. Came in the mail today, and you guys can see in my story, it's totally UPS fucked it up. It's the bass drum is
Dude,
just like,
I think I actually just saw that right before I came on. That's awful, dude.
No.
I mean, luckily, I get really sentimental with gear. I'm not a hoarder, but once I've developed a relationship with the piece of gear, it's like it becomes a part of my life. And so luckily, that one had not been in my life yet. It was just shipped from, I believe, Chicago to me. So I hadn't gotten to know it yet. But yeah, there are some drum sets that if they would have gotten messed up in shipping, it would be an emotional day.
Yeah.
No, that's just, yeah. But it's like still something from that time period. You're like, no matter what you do, you never know what it could have been, right?
Yes.
It's not like, oh, you just bought a new kit and then they just send you another one. You stop thinking about it because it's essentially the same manufacturing process, the same time. You know, I'm one of those buyers that's very much like I need to feel it. Any gear that I buy is very much like I buy it locally and like I end up picking it up myself.
Well, it's because you're smart. You're not like
No,
me.
I think maybe I'm just neurotic. I don't know, but it's like I bought an Acrolite on a Craigslist, and I think I bought a Superphonic on Facebook Marketplace or something like that, and they were both like local. And I went and like checked all the lugs, you know, because especially with those things, you never know. Like, what it may look great, but it's like I need to like physically check and make sure it's not warped and all those sorts of things, because at least once I want to know if I messed it up, it was me. Like I don't want to feel like, oh, I didn't notice this 2 months from now, you know.
Well, I almost have buyer's guilt now because if I think of the drum set, it's been a drum set since 81. And then just because my idiot ass wanted to ship it across the country, now it's broken. It's all my fault.
Nah, it's not your fault,
You know,
man.
it's
It's not your fault.
If I would have not intervened into its life, it would still be thriving. But,
Very philosophical way of thinking.
I guess the lesson to learn for drummers listening, and this has happened to a lot of my friends and they don't realize this, renter's insurance covers what's inside your car. Car insurance doesn't cover that. So, and I found this out because when I first moved to LA, I was having a show and maybe I had a few too many mocktails, and I decided to leave my snare drum and my cymbals in my car overnight on the street instead of being the smart guy and bringing it into my apartment and then taking it to my studio. Came out the next morning, car got broken into, everything was stolen. Even if you don't have a house and your apartment complex doesn't require it, that will cover what's in your car, is the renter's insurance. So,
Wow.
It's a pro move.
yeah.
I actually had a similar thing happen when I first moved to LA. This was what? December of 2016 when this happened, but I was doing a gig at Molly Malone's. Do you know that place?
Yep.
So I was playing there maybe an hour, but like I was like lazy and I had my trap case with all my cymbal stands and stuff like that just in my car. But I had an old Ford Explorer 1998. It was an old car. But I was in there an hour. I came out and somebody had like used like an air gun. Guess you can like with the old cars, there's enough of a gap between the door that you could pop the door open. It's like kind of crazy. I didn't know that. But
Giving tips to criminals on drummers
Yeah.
on drumming.
Sorry.
No.
You could cut this out if you want.
No.
They took my trap case, but I didn't have insurance at the time at all. But speaking of gear that I was like sad about, I had these in New York City. There used to be a guy. He used to make these bells called JCR bells. They're like old salsa cowbells. All the old salsa guys used to use them. They were like hand done.
Oh, cool.
They sounded incredible. A lot of the old salsa recordings, especially from the 80s and 90s, they're all like from this guy Cali in New York
Damn it,
City.
now I got to go buy one to have fun with it. Thanks a lot.
But they're like the guy passed away,
Jesus,
unfortunately.
dude. Invite you on.
So they're kind of rare, but I had a cha-cha bell in there.
Okay.
And that is like the one thing that I really wish I had.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, man, that's a bummer. And it's like some guy has it, doesn't know. But I got insurance. It's like musician's insurance. Like after that, I like maybe made a post like what do people do, and a lot of people recommended this company, Music Pro.
Music Pro, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I have now, and it covers me, I believe, everywhere worldwide.
That's insane.
You could just pay per year depending on how much you have. Like I have my laptop, my MacBooks, the studio one, my hard drives, all my gear, like anything I use for work, you can insure it.
And it's pretty cheap. This sounds like an ad, but only because I have. Isn't it like under a few $100s, right?
Yeah, I remember it was like $175 a year or up until a certain amount, and then once you pass that certain amount, they basically charge you maybe $1 or $2 more per year, depending on how much each thing you add.
Sure.
Anyhow, I recommend it to anybody that is a pro musician traveling using gear, it's like the most, like I don't have to really worry anymore. If I lose something or something breaks or it gets stolen, like at least I know it's covered and I could replace it in quotations. If it's something that can be replaced, at least financially, I can get it again.
Now with everyone's freaking trailers getting stolen, it's like if the whole band chips in, it's nothing, you know, and it's such a peace of mind is priceless. When you guys feel creatively stuck behind the kit, what do you do to shake it loose?
For me, one of my favorite things to do is honestly take a lesson with somebody. If I'm feeling stuck, or especially if I'm feeling like overly confident, sometimes I'll just be like, I literally need someone to take me down a peg and be like, hey, actually, there's still a lot to learn.
How do you determine when you're overly confident?
If I feel like I haven't pushed myself recently,
if you're happy.
you know? Yeah, if I'm happy.
Wait a second.
Why am I in such a good mood? I need to.
Something is off.
I have that one practice a month where I'm like, hey, I sound good today. Nope, I got to fix that.
I got to go to the doctor.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
To be honest, just having another set of eyes is such a valuable thing for me. A different perspective is so great. I can't recommend that enough.
Dude, I'm with you. So last week I was talking about studying with Nate Morton. So Eve 6 had 4 shows in the Southern California area this last week, and Nate came to the one in Echo Park, and he was obviously, you know, very nice about it afterwards, and I mean genuinely nice about it. And I have a lesson with him in I think a week and a half, and I'm just gonna go in there and be like, I want you to fucking tear me apart, please. That's why I want you to go to this show. And so I'm really excited to walk out of there with a lot of direction, you know? So I'm really excited. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, when you have like basically your teacher can watch you do your thing and then give you like really dedicated advice.
That's exactly. It's irreplaceable advice.
Yeah, talk about a guy that can play anything, speaking of playing anything.
Seriously.
Yeah. I mean, he always makes it sound like stylistically accurate, which is impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's also just the nicest guy in the world. I mean, his energy level, for everyone listening, listen to his episode of the podcast and you'll know what I mean. So infectious.
That's so great. Enthusiastic.
Yeah.
I love his content that he's been posting on, I say content, but like I love the videos that he's been posting online of like the voice stuff and like some of the TV bumpers he does. Like that was really interesting to me to see like how quick you got to be on, and like there's no count in, you're just like go, and then you have to essentially establish a groove and like stay there, right? Like I feel like it's a lot tougher than it looks.
Yeah, I think he did upload the video, but he was telling me about, because there's 2 Grammys. There's the Grammys that is televised, and then there's a lot of Grammys that never get even talked about or televised, whatever. But there is a ceremony for that, and so he was playing a show at that ceremony, and just the amount of stuff he had to do, the amount of time changes, and the short notice he had to figure out how to do this stuff. He is a pro. He told me Stacey Jones called him one time, was like, hey, can you cover this gig? I need to know like 25 songs in 2 days. And it's just, he's like, yep, I'll do it. And he did it. It makes me feel so freaking lazy when I hear stories like that. I'm like, oh, I have a month to learn a 45-minute set and I still get stressed out, you know? This episode is brought to you by Big Fat Snare Drum, specifically the Big Fat Snare Drum Bargain Bin. We're talking brand new heads that aren't scratched or dented. We just have too many, so get them for cheap. We've also dropped some new full coverage textile cloth designs, and our Pick 3 bundles are now live. It's an easy way to outfit your whole kit with many of our most popular heads. Just choose one of these 3 size sets, 10, 12, 14, 12, 14, 16, or 13, 14, 16. Go check out all of that at bigfatsnaredrum.com. For you, Cain, when you do get creatively stuck, what are a few options?
You know, interestingly enough, I kind of take the opposite approach and I just don't play for a while. If I haven't played for a week or two, if I go on vacation or something like that, and I come back and I play, I find that I am the most intrigued by my playing at that moment. Maybe my hands aren't there, the muscles aren't as loose or as limber as when you're playing every day, but I find myself playing new things, which is fun because then it's may take you on a practice exploration or something that I wouldn't have thought about if I was just kind of, we all do this. We all get into the stuff that we normally play, the gigs we normally play. I find if I just like leave myself alone for a little while, come back to it, I'm intrigued again. goes for burnout or being annoyed with myself or anything. I've given myself the grace to be like, I could take a break from this for a minute.
I love that. I think that's great advice.
I love that so much, and that's something that was like super foreign to me for so long. I used to always just be like, oh, if I'm stuck, it's time to double down and just be a glutton for punishment. And that's something that I've heard a lot of people saying that recently, that's what they do actively, is to literally just be like, I'm going to take a week where I literally don't touch the drumsticks and just make sure that I force myself to have that time away. And I've done it a couple times, and it's super effective. You come back and you're like inspired in a new way that you weren't before.
Right. Like something that my dad always, my dad being a drummer, like he always like tried to preach to me is like, doing this is a very long game. It's not a short game. We're not athletes to where we have until we're 35, or if you're LeBron, then maybe you're 75. But you know, you don't have a long lifespan, so you really try and do everything you can in this short time, and you know, you live your life afterwards. But I mean, if Roy Haynes is any indication, you could do this until you're 93, 94. I mean, I try and think of what I do and how I feel about music and drums in general as over a lifespan. So if I have to take a week away from it to enjoy it for the next 6 months, that's a no-brainer for me.
Have you guys ever thought about seriously quitting music?
Man, I don't think I've ever really considered it. I've certainly had moments where I start to think about, oh, maybe the grass is greener.
What is the other grass that you're referring to?
Just mostly, well, I guess that's the real thing for me, is that whenever I start to think about what I would do instead of playing music, I cannot think of a single thing that would make me happy, make me fulfilled. Maybe a park ranger at a national park, but I don't I don't know how much that's a thing anymore, unfortunately.
Park ranger, man. If I saw you on trail, I'd be stoked.
That would be the dream, other than music, of course. But I used to be like, oh man, I could do both. But anyways, I digress.
Dude, imagine the content you could create if you had a drum set up on one of those little tower things in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I'll be like the
coolest.
Firewatch tower. That's
Dude,
there
that'd
you
be
go.
sick.
Drumeo would sponsor you in a second.
Yeah.
But then no bands would hire me because I had to fly out on a little Cessna plane. It wouldn't work. It'd be a pain in the butt.
The cartage would be crazy.
Yeah, it's no fun. The schlep is real, you know.
That's merch right there. The schlep
The
is real.
schlep is real.
To you, Cain, what does success actually look like to you these days? And has it changed from when you were younger?
Yes.
Great.
I think.
Next question. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, sorry. I feel like it always changes. I think inherently we have goals, and then you achieve them, or you get close to them, and then as you get closer, you realize another goal, or life and music takes you in a direction that you may have not thought of when you were creating your goals per se, and it's like, oh man, I really want to do this now. Like, I didn't even know that was possible. For me, when I was a kid, genuinely my main goal was to make a living playing drums. That was the dream, right? So I've achieved that for many years. I mean, I moved to a place like LA. I knew like 5 people, and to make that work for me, I try and always remember that I achieved my main dream. Like, that's pretty dope. So of course I have other things that I've done or have wanted to do that I have done and want to do more, but I think that's very healthy. There was, I don't know if you guys know Sean Hurley, the bass player.
I don't know him, but a huge fan.
Yeah, you know of him.
Yeah.
I believe he said this when he came to Berkeley and he was speaking in a class. The quote I always remember him saying, or somebody saying was like, imagine you've achieved everything you've ever hoped for. Let's say you wanted to play Wembley Stadium, or you wanted to do a late night show, or you want to play Warped Tour, because that's going on right now, right?
Sure.
Let's say you achieved that. What now? I know it's an easy thing to say, but the more you think about it, it's a really kind of deep think piece.
It's very intimidating, yes.
Right, because you're like, well, it's like almost like you've reached this mountain, and what are you going to just jump off the cliff and that's it? What happens if you do it by the time you're 35, or by the time you're 25? So I guess that's my point, to try and not think about it like a finite goal. as opposed to like create new goals for myself, create new challenges, all those sorts of things throughout life to where I'm constantly keeping it interesting, and there's not, I've done it and that's it. I give up now.
I grapple with that a lot because part of me wants to, and I think was maybe Eric, if you remember, was my answer last time on what success is just still playing drums, still enjoying yourself as you get older. But you still need goals. How specific are your goals right now? Or have they gotten more vague as you get older in a good way? Or
I think it's, well, first off, I completely agree with you. I think the goal should be to be happy doing this, right? Like we were referencing earlier. And I think that's something great that's important to remember, because we get very deep in specific goals or just the trenches of what we do, right? But I think it was very vague, then it got very specific, and now I feel like it's gotten pretty vague for me again, which I've enjoyed. I enjoy the vagueness a little bit more. It allows there to be more possibility and more freedom in that. When it becomes very specific, I think if you're not doing that very specific thing, it becomes hard for your brain not to view it as you're not doing it, so there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. At least I can only speak for myself. Like I felt like I wanted to play this thing and I wasn't doing it, so I must not be playing good enough, or I must not know the right people. You know, like you start getting self-conscious about why it's not happening. But now that I've kind of made a shift and it's a little bit more vague again, I don't really feel those things anymore. So it's been great for me.
Yeah, I mean, we've touched upon this a little bit. I feel like I always try to think about the arts as just a journey-based business rather than a destination-based business. Mm-hmm. You know, for me, it's just about trying to enjoy the journey, because there is no end point. Like you were saying earlier, there's no point where it's just you're like, all right, I've achieved everything, I guess I'm done now. Like that's about the worst thing that I could possibly imagine. I guess I would say, if we're going to get specific about goals, for me it's more that playing drums it's my vessel for being able to experience more in life, I guess, would be my kind of goal right now, you know? Like to be able to tour and see the world is like the journey for me that is exciting about, you know, all the work that I put in now, all the practicing, all the emailing, all the, you know, socializing and working with different artists, and like hopefully that is the means that gets me to experience life and all it has to offer.
You want to hold a koala. I get it.
Yeah, I mean that's my super specific is I did mention this before that I will not have said I've made it in music until I hold a koala in Australia and get that.
Then you can put it on the wall next to your posters.
That's right. I'm gonna get a giant banner. It's gonna be behind me.
Yeah, I heard this video the other day where this guy was saying he believes that life begins at 40. Before that, it's just all research. And that's when things start to...
I love that.
I love that too, because I'm 38. But what piece of advice have you heard over and over again that turned out to be wrong, or at least wrong for you?
The only things that I don't have any big, deep philosophical one. But I would say there's so many little, really specific things about technique and approach and setup that... Mm-hmm. That, you know, like so many teachers are like, you have to play German grip all the time. And you get older and you go, actually, if the drum sounds good, who cares? You know?
Absolutely.
For me, I guess it would just mostly be those really specific technical things. And then as I get older, just realizing, oh, everyone's built completely different. And drums are not a one-size-fit-all thing. Like that is, to me, one of the most beautiful things about the drums is it's the only instrument that's completely modular to how you are built up as a person. Mm-hmm. If it's more comfortable for you to have a floor tom behind you, then you can do that. You know?
Yeah.
The Jonathan Moffat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You can have the double chinas over the shoulders.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million
Jones.
things like exactly.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Huge. You know, every drum kit, I've never sat on a drum kit and been like, oh, this is exactly like so-and-so's setup. Like everyone has just millimeters of tweaks and differences and tom angles that are different. So to go about like a one-size-fits-all technical approach, I think is not the right move. I get why it's important, but
I think once you get to a certain level, like it has to become, again, like to use that word idiosyncratic, like it has to be tailored to you.
Exactly.
Because we can't all play the ride cymbal like Keith Carlock does. Like that works for him, and it's like, I mean, he makes it look incredible. But if I tried to do that, I'd probably be like, "Ow, my shoulder hurts." You know, like Daru, or to play kind of that way. I mean, it gets him the sound and the thing that he's going for. But to say, "Oh no, the snare drum has to be this height and has to, when you put your hands up, it has to be like it's." I think that's. I understand for like I think you were about to say, Ben, like for like a teaching tool to get people started on the instrument, you kind of have to set a ground rules of you hold the fulcrum, you do this, you do that. But after that, it's as free as music is.
And to echo what Eric said, I think it's just, if anyone has ever told you this is how you should do something, or this is how you hold the sticks, or this is how whatever, it's just unequivocally every single time, I would push back on that. God, there's sometimes the only way I can get the snare sound that I want that fits the energy of the show or whatever is gripping it like it's going to give me carpal tunnel. And yeah, maybe it will, but that's what the song calls for. Sometimes you can't. I know I just hear all my specific people that teach going to yell at me right now, but it's like sometimes you do have to play with shitty technique to get a certain thing out. And does that make it shitty technique? You're trying to communicate, and that technique got you to communicate the way you want to communicate. So it's like sugar, moderation.
I would even just say like the idea of intention, you know, even if we get like nerdy about like music theory about like, oh, this chord shouldn't, you know, resolve here. It's like, yeah, but if you're trying to make something that is intentionally angular or even like ugly, then you have to do an ugly thing. You have to play with a really tight, locked in, horrible technique to make something intentionally. Maybe it's supposed to sound really rigid. And
well, it's like going back to what I was saying before with like, how much of an asshole do you have to be to think that every decision you've made, like all these regrets you have, it's like, if I would have done that one thing, then my life would be so much better now. Like, who are you to say that? And how are we supposed to be like, every sound I want out of the drum should be made in a way that will not hurt my body? It's like, sometimes to get a sound, there's no way to not add vibrations that are going to make you lose your feeling.
And we can all strive to like.
Sure.
Yeah. It's like I feel like in the past few years I've gotten really like deep into like trying to fix technique because I was having some issues with it. But yeah, we can all strive. It's a constant battle. You're always gonna like be like, I'd like to be able to do this, or your technique can always be better.
Sure,
but
for sure
to make it like I can't play this unless it's the perfect way. I agree with you. It's unfair. It's unfair to the art in the end. You know, if you're caring about that more than how it sounds, then you're paying attention to the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It does always kind of make me laugh when people start going out on like, oh yeah, your body's not supposed to hit the drum that way, and then you just have to take a step back and be like, well, our bodies weren't really designed to do this thing anyways. Like, this is not a necessity for our bodies at all. So everything we're doing is like kind of retrofitting.
Yeah. All right, if your younger self could see what you're doing right now, what would surprise or confuse them the most? Mine would probably be disappointed, if I'm being honest. In high school, I wanted to be in like a 3-piece band that we wrote in the room together. That's all we did. We toured the world. And I've created a really awesome, fulfilling career in many ways doing not that. And I still travel the world playing drums, but it's in a different way. So I would probably have to sit down my younger self and be like, okay, here's why it's cool. Okay, man, your gut health is the best it's ever been. That's really important for you nowadays.
Tell me about it.
I am in the same boat, I think. My high school elitist self would totally be disappointed. Yes. Yeah, I was like, oh, if it's not, Dream Theater, Porcupine Tree, I don't want to listen to it. I was insufferable. To be fair, current me probably wouldn't want to hang out with younger me in the first place. So, but I mean, like, I'm happy. now, so who cares if younger me is disappointed?
Yeah, and I guess I do want to paint that in the way that my life would have gone exactly the way that my younger self would be stoked on that is my life. I'm not sure if I would be as happy as I am right now, is what I'm trying to say. So it's just like, it's just your perspective's different.
Exactly.
I think the way my brain works, I love how I've set up my life now. It's just, maybe I'd have a nicer house, but that's all, I mean, look at my lamp. I'm doing well, okay?
I've looked at that lamp a few times, and you just did a thumbs up on the Zoom.
And then
so
this stuff's happening. Life is fucking incredible.
My initial reaction is to say that I would be happy with what I'm doing. I think I know the answer, because when I was in college, I studied with Dave DiCenzo. I don't know if you guys are familiar with who he is.
Yeah, I love it. Great teacher.
He is honestly one of the most underrated drummers today. I think, not just because I know the guy and I think he's a really great person, but one of the baddest drummers on the planet.
I agree.
Honestly, like his flow, the ideas, the creativity. It's just, I think he's definitely a big inspiration for me. So shout out Dave DiCenzo.
Oh, yeah.
But when I was studying with him, I don't know if it was 5 years or 10 years. It was like you have to write a letter to your future self. Which is kind of what we're talking about, but in reverse, right? So it was kind of like I would have to write a letter, be like, "Hey, man, this is me, 19-year-old me. This is what I hope you're doing now," type of thing. And I don't know how long it was ago that I read it, but I read it and I was like, "Man, like I'm sort of doing that, like maybe it's not in the exact way that 19-year-old self thought the music industry existed or was going to be. It's changed, and I think at the time I thought I was going to move to LA and be the next Gary Novak, Dave Weckl, So I think I'm happy to say that I am sort of going into playing that music now more, which has been really fulfilling for that part of me. And even at the time when I read it, I think all I wanted for myself was that I was playing drums and that I was seeing the world, like Eric said, and just getting to do this, right? That I wasn't doing something else. I think I was more concerned with whether I was practicing or not. Like that was what I was writing. I was like, you better be practicing. And if you're not, like, it was like stuff like that. Yeah. Like I was literally scolding myself if I wasn't practicing 5 years in the future. Like that was where my concern was, like music school, kid brain, So I would say that I think you'd be happy.
That's awesome. Yeah, when I graduated high school, I thought I was going to be an occupational therapist for like the first 6 months out of high school. And then I got a tour offer, and then I decided not to go to school in the fall, but it was weird time. I had no idea what I was doing.
It happens, man. It's a tough world out there, honestly. Like it's pretty lucky that we found something that we like. I mean, I know a lot of people my age that are just bouncing around from job to job. They like never really found their thing. So it's tough enough as it is.
Yeah. I mean, I also acknowledge how lucky I am that I met Chris from Big Fat Snare Drum when I did, and met him through the friends I did. And Big Fat is such a fun thing to do that keeps me afloat between tours. And I've been home a lot more this year, but I'm also happier in a way, in different ways, But again, I love touring just as much, but it's been nice to get I guess in general, the thing about this career is that it's not just going to the same office every day. It's just like from year to year, it's different. It's still the same career, but it's obviously day to day is different, venue to venue, but year to year, and it's been really fun. But I'm happy.
Well, but it's similar to like talking about it's similar to like talking about our goals. Now it's like our goals and expectations are constantly changing. Yeah. And I think that's like the important part of growing as a person and as a musician. I don't know about you guys, but when I was in high school, I knew probably like 25 drummers. And I was like, I just want to be like one of the 25 drummers that everybody knows. It's like Travis Barker, Neil Peart. And like you have these lofty goals about being one of the greats. And then once you're in it and you realize, oh, actually, like, I could be happy playing in a country band. Like like a genre of music that maybe I totally hated in high school is now like gonna be my future gig forever. Like, who knows? It's interesting just kind of how that trajectory changes over time, and just, you know, it shows your growth as a person. This all ties back to like the thought of quitting music in the first place. You know, to me, I always think even when it's bad, it's great. Even when I'm on hour 7 driving through Nebraska, just like this is the greatest thing ever. You know, I distinctly remember having a student who was a great student, but she was studying nursing, and she would come into her lesson every day just glowing, itching to tell me these stories about like, this guy's bone was sticking out of his foot, and like she was just so enthusiastic. And to me, I'm like, this sounds like the worst thing in the world. I could not imagine. I don't want any part of this, but to see her as excited about nursing as I get about drums and touring was like a massive revelation for me, where it's just like, oh yeah, just some people don't want to do the quote unquote awful part of this job, you know? But I think for the people who end up making this their career, that awful part is ultimately still something they enjoy.
What's a non-drumming habit or practice that has made you a better drummer or bandmate? I think for me, it's therapy. But that's like an obvious one. I think that would make everyone a better bandmate. But yeah, really working on myself at home, I think I'm really actually excited to get back out on the road with the bands that I tour a lot with, that obviously emotions run high sometimes just because we love each other, and we were with each other for 10 months out of the year, the last 3 years. But I'm excited to get back on the road with those guys and see how much more enjoyable it'll be in my own skin now that I've spent a lot of time on that stuff. And I've been really working on my single stroke roll. No, I'm kidding. I think they're going to like me now, finally.
I got into like meditating, sort of like, just like, well, I guess it's like breath work, but I find that it helps my drumming because it allows my brain to be a little bit more in the moment. And just like it helps with listening and all those sorts of things. I find it just allows me to, I think I listened to the Mark Giuliano episode, and I think
nice.
He talked about, which I really identified with. He was talking about like, I think you asked him when David Bowie was at the 55 bar, like, did it like mess you up or something like that? And he was like, he just entrenched himself further in the music. And I think being able to do that, one, in that style of music is of the utmost importance. And like, just in general, right? Like whatever it is you're doing, because our brains can go haywire and start thinking about, man, like, what is fourth meal again? Like, where are we playing tomorrow? Like, you start just thinking about other stuff, right? Like
fifth meal for me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. But to be there with everybody, it makes you a better bandmate because you're listening. But I think also interpersonally, because things get a little tense, you know, when everyone's really tired, and allowing yourself to stay cooler and not get as upset, I think is always good.
Yeah, I think maybe, well, before I respond with that, so when you say meditate, are you talking about during the show, or do you have an actual practice that on tour you have to make sure you get, 20 minutes to yourself? And I mean, how do you practice your meditation?
So I use for me, I use like the Insight app.
Okay.
I don't know if you know. Yeah, it's basically just a timer that has like a drone in the background. And for me, I just kind of pop my headphones in, and we'll just kind of sit somewhere or lay somewhere, and just like, it's mostly just like connecting with myself, just like really breathing deeply and noticing any tension I have anywhere, and then, as thoughts come by, trying to work on not fighting them, like, and just letting them go. Like, it's definitely more, it's not like a more vocal meditation where you're kind of reciting chants, and I've never gotten into anything like that. But I first discovered it because there's a book that, speaking of Dave DiCenzo, recommended to me called Effortless Mastery by Kenny Werner. And that essentially has guided meditations in it.
Yes.
Maybe he doesn't call them that, but they're essentially helping people through performance anxiety, which I've definitely experienced over my life. It's always something I'm trying to improve on. Allowing myself control over my brain a little bit more, and just any tension that I may have because of whatever, I try and just breathe that out for 10 or 15 minutes when I can.
I would say, in a similar thing to you guys, that going on runs for me is the equivalent of my meditation and my therapy. these kind of things that help us get outside of ourselves, that help us process like our day. Even just having time to be alone with my thoughts has been something that I think helps me. You know, it's also probably good that my bandmates don't get to see me for like an hour. They're just like, oh, he's gone. We don't have to deal with that guy anymore.
Like, thank God.
Thank God. My nerdy answer is Ableton Live, but that's my valuable skill set that has helped me a lot with my bandmates and my gigs, is just giving them the mindset that like, oh, he's got the tracks, everything's going to be fine. Or even if I work with an artist who's like new to working with tracks, having someone who's experienced and can step in and just like take that weight off the shoulders has been a valuable tool. So I always recommend to drummers, you should work on your playback chops.
Yeah.
Are there any videos you know of that you'd recommend, or a channel?
Yeah, there's this guy on YouTube, From Studio to Stage. I basically just rip off his whole setup. That guy is awesome.
From Studio to Stage. That's the YouTube channel?
Yes. I need to start paying for his courses because he's well worth it.
Yeah, on stage is like my meditation. I know it sounds cheesy, but the reason why I'm saying that is my brain acknowledges that I need to pay rent. And it's like my anxiety is like, we get it, dude. That's the one place we won't make you spiral. And then the second I get off stage, then I'll think about what I did. But when I'm in the moment, if there's like anything starts to creep up that is stressing me out, it's like there's this little, like they just sweep it out. Like these little people in my brain that go like, no, not right now. You have 45 minutes. Then we'll literally let you in. We'll make you a tea. But for the time being, get the fuck out of here. And it's weird. So far, it's happened that way. It's like a superpower that I wish I could like take a pill that just like created this on stage. I mean, maybe I'd just be anxious all the time and sweating. Why has Ben always out of breath?
It's the little people sweeping.
I told you, it's the sweepy people.
And then on stage, the company will sell it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, on that, I have a question. How would you describe your balance between sort of losing yourself in the moment on stage versus being like awake and aware?
Honestly, I feel like it shifts for me for the type of gig I'm playing.
Sure.
I think all of us have done like sort of pop shows, you know, where there is a part and it's right or it's wrong, right? And I think for me, that makes me have to be very aware, especially when you're first playing a show, when you first know there's a lot of things you have to remember as a drummer, you know, especially with either with playback and making sure you're cueing or electronics or just the parts or all that sorts of stuff. So I find with those sorts of gigs, I have to be very aware of what I'm doing and way more intentional, right, is the best way to put it. Because that's what the gig, the music, all of it essentially calls for. Now that I'm playing more jazz-based music, I would say fusion-based music, I think I'm trying to completely lose myself at all times. Because I think that's what it calls for. I think if I was too aware, I wouldn't be paying enough attention to what was going on around me. And to quote Mark Giuliani, I'd be turning my back to the moment or turning my back to the band members. And I think, so as a practice, I'm trying to not think about anything, what I did, what I played. I'm only thinking about the next moment. One is just to do something totally different than I'm used to. And also to try my best to just allow the moment to happen. And then like Ben does, which is great. I'm jealous. Like to be able to just to think about it later, you know, like I'll analyze what I did later and I'll say maybe, okay, when this comes up, I'll remember to do something different because it just sounds better, right? But I try not to micromanage in the moment because I think it would take me out of it. That's me, I guess.
I would say overall, I try to skew more towards losing myself in the moment, even if it comes at the cost of, oh, you've made a few more mistakes than you would have if you were just like awake and locked in. Honestly, I think those mistakes on stage are exciting for an audience to see, you know, just little human flubs. If you want perfection, go home and listen to the record. That's why you go see live music, is its unpredictability. I have noticed recently that I try to take special care to have a moment where I do wake myself up and like appreciate what's happening. Maybe it'll be like the bridge of a song where it's just, oh, I'm like washing on the ride. Just simple halftime groove, whatever. where I'll just be like, this is, I'm playing in such and such venue and all these people are here and this is amazing. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of been an important nightly ritual that I've been doing at shows. It goes along with the meditation on stage too, I think. It's just, it's like, oh, here I am.
When was your last big moment like that? Because I had one pretty recently.
I just played the House of Blues in Chicago with my band Marina City, and it was like weirdly where we had our first show as a band, and we haven't been back in over a decade, and we haven't played there with our guitarist who's now in the band, and it was just like a really special moment, and I really made sure to have a few moments where I was like, oh, I'm like here at this place where it all started with my best friends in the world, and there's like this great crowd, and I'm feeling awesome. And it was just like, I think especially because like playing music at the end of the day is like what we're all in it for. And when those 30 minutes or, hour go by so quickly when you're on stage, you have that moment of time slip. I think it's really important for me to take a moment and be like, oh yeah, but like I'm here. I'm going to take a moment where I'm going to actively be like, I'm going to remember this 30 seconds. I think that's been a really special thing for me. But I would say overall, it is always trying to strike that perfect balance from gig to gig of like getting totally lost in the sauce versus like hyper focused.
Yeah.
Are my 8 notes in time,
I mean, that whole dance is the funnest part.
Totally.
That's what I love about art is it's a hug war, a hug battle with yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What about you, Cain? That's going to be somewhere in the title.
Or I'm happy, question mark?
Yeah, that's every show.
I would say pretty recently, we did 2 nights at the Blue Note in Tokyo.
Very cool.
And
very cool.
For the fusion and jazz heads in the audience, that is, it's a pretty big deal. So I felt like, damn, this is pretty sick to be able to do that. And I'm a little bit similar to Eric in this way. Over time, I've tried to allow myself to be like, hey, look around, you're here. Because it goes by so fast. And I don't want to feel like I didn't look around, I don't remember that I played the show. Because that was, especially the big ones, right? You're just like, I want to feel like I can look back as later on and feel like I can remember myself looking around the stage or the theater or whatever it may be, right? So that was a recent one for me. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome, dude. Mine was actually a few days ago. It was Eve 6 did this little 4-day SoCal run, and one of the shows was in San Luis Obispo, and I think that's how you say that city name, and is at this place called the Coach House, which I think was legendary for like Bad Religion used to play there and stuff, but it's like this kind of dinner theater place where everyone sits in like almost like cafeteria tables and they're kind of around the stage and it's cool. So you show up and you're like, oh gosh, okay, it's this kind of show. And then we played the show, and Max knows who's the lead singer, knows a lot of bands from the 90s that are really cool. And there's this band called The Flies that has this song called Got You Where I Want You. And the guy who raps in the bridge of that song was there. So we ended up playing that song kind of impromptu, like listening to the arrangement in the green room, and then kind of practiced it sound check. Didn't get it right, but then we just said, fuck it, let's do it. And we played the show, and we actually killed it. And it was cool because he was kind of a hometown boy from there. And it was just one of these moments where I'm like, I'm playing in a band that I grew up listening to. I'm playing a song with the rapper of a band that their song's awesome. I've played it a lot, and hanging out with him after the show, it was just like, it's fun. So that's that.
That's like cool for your little kid self, like those are like those little things I find help keep you from burning out, because you're like, yeah, there's a cool moment here, and allow yourself to experience it and be okay with being happy, question mark.
And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum and you will find us. The show is edited in part using iZotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at iZotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye.